Welcome, my friends, to the showdown between Norsca, who shall be led by Wulfric, and the Dark Elves, who are going to be helmed by Malekith the Witch King atop his mighty big black dragon. So on that note, guys, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So as far as the build goes, it's pretty much going to be standard against Dark Elves, but you can see my opponent has brought anything but a standard build. So it's going to be a massive kite build. So it looks like in total he has 4 groups of the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, a couple groups of Cold One Knights mixed in with Doomfire Warlocks and Dark Riders. He does also have a Sorceress with Beasts to summon some Manticores, and of course Malekith on his big black dragon. So certainly going to be a little bit tough to catch all those guys. Granted, I was expecting at least some missile pressure from Dark Riders or Dark Shards or Shades or anything like that. So I do have a fair amount of the Marauder champions. So these guys are going to be pretty good against missile play. They have 80 armor, which I guess against Dark Elf missiles isn't terribly pertinent because again, most of the Dark Riders and with their Peter crossbows and Dark Shards all have really good AP, and Shades, I think they all have really good AP values. But nonetheless, the shields are going to be pretty helpful. They're durable. They're good leadership. They're going to be able to hold even if they take a beating and hopefully do some good work. But aside from that, it's going to be Marauder champions in the entire front line. So it's going to be very useful against the missiles. And I do also have the Brutes of the Hound here in the middle. They're just a really cool regiment for now. And honestly, against heavily armored infantry, yes, they're going to struggle. But what you usually do with the Brutes of the Hound is you stack them with the Miststalkers. So the Miststalkers have armor sundering, so they butter up the armor of the target they're fighting. You then cast Enfeebling Foe, and the Brutes of the Hound will be able to tear pretty much anything to shreds, even armored infantry. Very, very strong combo there. In the back, we have some Angry Werewolves. So we have 2 groups of Skin Wolves, just going to be the standard variant. I mean, the armored ones, I didn't figure would be terribly useful, again, against Dark Elves, because they have the armor-piercing bolts, they have the Cold One Knights, all of which have really good AP value. So I was like, let's just go a little bit cheaper, get the regular Skin Wolves, which I think are pretty good. If you're going to be running them with like a Shadowcaster, you cast Enfeebling Foe with the Cold One Knights, you can swarm, they regenerate, so if you're able to pull them back and micro them efficiently, they can generate a ton of value. Now, against normal Dark Elves, I do also bring a couple groups of Marauder Chariots. I feel like they're very cost-effective against Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, and Missile Units, Shades, Harganeth Executioners, you name it. These guys are able to do a ton of work against Dark Elf infantry, but in this case, they're going to be pretty much useless, just kind of a roadblock. In the back, I have Norscan Hounds, and that is pretty much it. So you guys saw my opponent's army. It's pretty much just a mass kite army here, and we're going to see if we can kind of hunt these Dark Elves down or if we're going to be taken out. So right now, my forces are going to be advancing. I'm going to pressure them a little bit because I just looked. I was like, okay, is there anything on this battlefield I can kind of corral? And I saw over here, there was a little bit of a force on this side of the battlefield. So if I could push him up this way and advance my main force here and then pincer into this mountain range right here, I figured I could probably trap a couple of his troops in the forest. Now, I have a couple of mechanics to slow. I do, of course, have the Wolves right here. So the Norscan Icehounds do have the Frostbite mechanic. Wulfric has the Hunter of Champions. Plus, I do also have Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma on my Shadowcaster, which does slow by, I believe, 25%, give or take. So that is going to be something that could allow my Werewolves or my Norscan Icehounds here to catch some of these units. So just going to be sitting right here playing patient. I know I can't catch these guys, so I didn't really see any point in chasing them. I'm just going to let them waste their ammo, hopefully into the shields. A little bit sloppy here, letting these Miststalkers get a little bit overextended, but they do have missile resist, and I will be pulling them back in a moment. So I do drop a Melkoth right here, and I push in with the Marauders, which I had on the flank. So not everything was champions. I was a little bit mistaken there. But the Marauders are going to be pushing in on the flanks, going after the Slaanesha's Harvesters, but at this point, I was just trying to get that corral. So I am able to kind of, get him back here with some of the Dark Riders, which is good. So these Marauder champions are going to be heading up this way, and the Berserkers are going to be heading here, trying to seal this mountain pass, because you can see he's falling back further into the forest, which I'm quite happy about. So the Werewolves are going to be going in pretty deep here, and I believe I had something going to corral in this direction, but no, I actually take the angle of pursuit with the Werewolves to cut him off from retreating. So it always feels so good to be able to catch these skirmish units, and we're able to catch these guys. The Werewolves are going to be getting in there with their claws, and it's certainly not going to be a good situation for these Dark Elves, as they are going to be getting dragged down to the forest. And the other group of Werewolves is going to be taking that angle of pursuit, trying to break these guys, and now I'm going to be collapsing. And also, I believe my Ice Doggos are hiding in the forest over here. So I was hoping he would overextend here, and I would be able to pounce with the Ice Doggos, but I don't think they're even hidden, so a little bit of misplay on my part. And whenever you guys play against these type of builds, it can certainly be very tough to play against and a little bit stressful for sure, but just try and keep your forces together and just methodically try and isolate targets. And yeah, you might eventually lose the game, but you certainly have a chance of, they're not like unbeatable builds, right? So the Marauders here are going to be turning about face to take these missile attacks, and the champions just forming a bit of a shield wall here. Now, if I wanted to, I could honestly just hide in the forest and just kind of camp the entire game, but even still, I feel like that's not going to be your best chance of winning. Your best chance is going to be isolating these targets and trying to get them to waste their ammunition against these shielded infantry. But again, my opponent doing a pretty good job being conservative here, not wasting shots on these targets. And right now, these dogs are going to be coming out, the Norscan Ice Wolves, who let the dogs out. Turin let the dogs out this time. And they're going to be running over here trying to catch these guys. Granted, he has Slaanesha's Harvesters and Dark Riders nearby, so if he wants to, he's going to be able to kind of stop me from doing much here. But it looks like he might just be turning around for a shot. I don't know if he saw those guys coming in the back there, but yeah, getting chased down by the Dark Riders. I mean, these guys would do okay against Dark Riders, but I don't want to take that fight. Like, there's no point in getting trapped up there. So the Skin Wolves are going to be rushing to intercept here. The Dark Riders do over pursue a little bit, but the Werewolves are going to be pushing in to kind of intercept those guys. And I think I actually missed the charge. I think I was like moving over here or something, but the Dark Riders should pull back rather quickly. Now the Chariot's pretty much just dead weight this game. There's no infantry for them to attack, so been a little bit rough in terms of targeting. Now I saw a good opportunity over here as well. Wulfric is going to be going in for this caster. He uses Hunter of Champions to put her down to 48 speed, so she probably thought she could get away from me here, but Wulfric of course has that really powerful slow, and now he's going to be charging in, and he is going to do so much damage. Is she like sitting like on one side of the horse with both legs on one side? Kind of looks a little bit weird. Yeah, it looks like she is. Yeah, she's like just sitting like lazily. That's not how you ride a horse. But anyways, Wulfric is going to be dueling right here. She's still slowed. It's a very long effect. So from here, we're going to keep pursuing, and she's relatively the same speed. I tried to get her with a Sea Fang as well, which does have a slowing effect, but you can see her leadership's really bad. And she's about to get away here. 92 speed against Wulfric 78, so her horse is quite a bit faster. So what I actually do is I overcast Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, which again will slow her down to 70, allowing Wulfric to catch her. So we're able to catch that caster there, which is really good. So like I said, just being patient, looking for opportunities, and you have to keep moving around to force your opponent to move. Otherwise, it's going to be a stagnant battlefield, and you're not going to be able to kind of catch anything at any point. So the big dragon is going to be going overhead. His repeater crossbows are going to be shooting into the Miststalkers, but here Wulfric is going to be chasing this caster off the battlefield. So we're going to be chasing her all the way off, trying to shut down those Manticore summons, which I don't think he had used yet. I think he was waiting for like a big battle or something, because if he just used it randomly, like the Skin Wolves would just probably kill it. So not Wolf Lord, Malekith is not a Wolf Lord. God, sorry guys, I just woke up. But Malekith the Witch King here is going to be dropping a fat, juicy breath attack right here on the Brutes of the Hound, getting a little bit of, some of that sweet damage. We're going to be scooting up the champions to kind of screen out the repeater crossbows. Werewolves are going to be getting pulled back so they can regenerate, because again, I don't need to be taking this free fire here. And Wulfric's doing a pretty good job chasing off the sorceress. She might come back at like the very edge of the battlefield, but my opponent would have to have a pretty immediate reaction to kind of get away from Wulfric here. So Wulfric is going to be coming in, and she's kind of cornered there, and his acceleration should allow him to catch her. So still just pushing up my Marauders, just looking to kind of waste his ammo and force him back a little bit, just trying to force him out of position. Maybe he'll slip up in one area and I can capitalize. I actually thought he was going to be scooting back with Malekith, maybe doing some sort of a dive back here, but with the Skin Wolves and the other wolf doggy people, it's going to be a little bit tricky. So Wulfric, in the meantime, is able to chase this sorceress with beasts off the battlefield, nullifying the Manticore summons, which is going to be huge. So we don't have to deal with that too much. And Malekith is going to be jumping down on the chariots, going for those freebies, which is fine. I mean, if anything, they're basically distraction card effects right now. So we're going to be attacking. I mean, they have mass, so they are able to kind of pin things in. But at this point, we're going to be pulling these guys back. And we're actually going to be committing to a bit of a strike right now. So we do cast Melkoth on these guys, putting their speed down relatively low. And the wolves here are very fast. These wolves have 95 against a 92 here. And if I get a single Frostbite nipping at their heels, it's going to be really good. It's going to slow those guys down. So he's falling back with the Cold One Knight simply because I'm pursuing with the Skin Wolves as well. But it looks like he's going to be taking a fight here, countercharging the Wolves, who are a large target, unfortunately. So this is going to be a little bit tough. Granted, I then see an opportunity open up. So the Skin Wolves are going to be taking this 2v1 fight over here, and they're going to be attacking the Cold One Knights. Now, it's a tough fight. Cold One Knights do have anti-large. Armor piercing, again, not significant here. But the Werewolves, oh man, Werewolves getting some nice claws in there. Look at this guy's just getting launched. But I have Enfeebling Foe, and he does not have any magic support. So we're going to be casting Enfeebling Foe on these guys, which is just going to butter them up. And now they can't really get away. The Werewolves are going to be able to drag them down. They're faster. So those Cold One Knights are going to be taken out pretty bad. And the other Cold One Knights here, were able to do a number on my Hounds, but I certainly got the upper hand of that trade, as I was able to get the Cold One Knights here. So he's going to be surging in, and my opponent is finally going to be committing for an Alpha Strike. So Doomfire Warlocks are coming in. These guys coming in as well. Repeater Crossbows are shooting in. So it's going to be a big pit fight here. You guys can see it's going to get messy as the Slaanesha's Harvesters charge in, but the Berserkers are quite happy to have this fight. This is their element here. Plus, I also have Skin Wolves kind of mixed in, so the Skin Wolves are going to be able to slap the base on these guys, potentially do some huge damage. And yeah, this is it. This is the final battle. So he still does actually have Malekith, so I forgot. That wasn't his only caster, so he's not without a caster. Doomfire Warlocks are going to be getting tagged with Melkoth just for the damage. And yeah, the fight is on, but you can see the Dark Elves are having a lot of problems. This is a very durable Norscan army here. Brutes of the Hound are unbreakable. I have Frostbite in here. I have a Shadow Caster. I have two groups of Skin Wolves, which are, well, one of them is fairly beat up, but it still has 14 models, so even if it runs, it could potentially come back and regenerate here. So Malekith was a little bit out of position. He was trying to take a duel with Wulfric over here, but Wulfric does pop the Hunter of Champions, which makes him fairly weak. It does lower his stats pretty significantly, down to 7 melee defense. Granted, Malekith in a straight-up fight versus Horse Wulfric would probably be okay, especially with the Soul Stealer, but I did pull back the Miststalkers, which of course was a bit of a deterrent. So suddenly I forced a pretty good battle over here, and his investment of attacking with Malekith over here did not pay off, but the bounce power is relatively even. He still has a lot of stuff, and he commits for a secondary fight. You can see Slaanesha's Harvesters coming in here, the Dark Riders getting some nice cycle charging, and my force is getting really, relatively tattered, because the entire time we are fighting, I'm also taking repeater fire from the crossbows here, which are peppering into the Wolves. And I think I have one group of Skin Wolves left who are steady. Word of Pain has been cast on those guys, so good target priority for my opponent here. It's going to be slowing those guys down. and the repeater crossbows are going to be shooting in pretty much every direction. So he still has relatively good ammo in these groups here, but that's pretty much all he has. It's going to be Malekith on the big black dragon, and I just don't think he has a lot of stopping power other than the crossbows, which I still have the Miststalkers. I have a ton of shielded infantry, and that's really why I think bringing the Marauder Champions is a pretty good pick in this matchup. Gaze of Malice is going to be going down. I did try and dodge it here, but he does clip the back of a formation, and Wulfric should be back in the battle. He's somewhere back in the battlefield. I think he's made his way over here, but we do have him kind of pincered here in the forest a little bit, so we're going to be trying to chase those guys down. We're even using the chariots as a pursuit tool right now, and it looks like some of the Dark Riders are going to be coming in here for just a slamming charge, just trying to halt my advance, and again, allow Malekith to get some juicy engagements. So a really nice Soul Stealer is going to be going down right here. He does hit a lot of my troops. It hits my chariots, my wolves, a bunch of the champions, but he is a little bit trapped up here. So what I do at this point is I get Wulfric on him, obviously, but I get the chariots. So I grab both chariots, and for anyone who ever played other RTS games like Warcraft 3, Warcraft 3 is probably the best example of how surrounding units is very important. So right here, we pull the chariots back, and then we re-engage him. So we attack Malekith in the back here, which is going to pin him in. So now if he tries to retreat this direction, he's going to have a couple high mass units pinning him in place. So it pretty much seals his doom. And of course, there are skin wolves in the front, and I mean, he could maybe squeak out the side here, but even still, that's going to be tough for my opponent to see in this situation. So Malekith is going to be getting circle beaten by Wulfric. Fight or die has been popped, and that is going to be all she wrote for the Dark Elves. So it was certainly an intense game. I do like that build against Dark Elves. I feel like it's relatively well-rounded. Your infantry line will be very durable against most Dark Elf builds, with the exception of elite builds. So if you're facing off against like Hargoneth and Blackguard, but then again, you have the Miststalkers, you have Wulfric's Boat, you have Pendulum, and you also do have the Chariots to kind of help with that fight. So you have a couple answers to everything. I'm trying to think of a Dark Elf build that would give this one a lot of trouble. I mean, I think there's a multitude of ways Dark Elves could win this matchup, or at least against this build. I mean, the build isn't perfect, but I think it's okay. I do like Throg in this matchup as well, but he is a bit of a magnet for Bowfire, and Wulfric having Hunter of Champions plus the Seafang. I really like against Elvish factions having Seafang plus also having the Pendulum. Having that 1-2 punch of a Pendulum effects is super strong and can pretty much take out any high-value targets or missile targets. So yeah, it was a fun build for sure. I liked it. And for my opponent's build, yeah, it's kind of a typical, well, I don't know if I would say typical, but maybe just going with like one caster. But yeah, it's just kind of a mass kite build. And it's tough to deal with. It can be stressful for sure, but if you just methodically and patiently wait and choose your fights and just play very conservatively with your army, keeping it close together, you can certainly win the game. So well played to my opponent. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Norsca vs. Dark Elf showdown, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.